Boom. Welcome in to episode 21 of the Fit Parent Podcast. Jeff here again with Amy. We are on a roll here, Amy.
On a roll. Yes, we are.
Recording episodes. Sticking with it. Proud of us. It's I'm gonna
give me a schedule.
I'm gonna do a quick aside here. This is all the evidence that you need that having support and accountability and somebody to do something with really makes a big difference. So it's one of the reasons why I know that you love going to work out in classes and have your workout wife in Heather, is that there's somebody who's waiting for you and expecting you to be there, and just makes it a lot easier to do.
That's exactly it. That's why I do primarily group fitness. It's just more fun.
Yeah. Having somebody to do something with makes a big difference, and I've noticed that in my own training. I'm almost to the point where I'm like, I'm gonna just offer to train somebody for free just so I have a workout buddy. Like, I'm gonna train somebody for free as long as you come and work out with me.
I volunteer as tribute.
I don't know if you want to do it.
I think I can handle it. I think
you could. You got a little bit of a taste of it today because I did the finisher with you all, and like you heard.
Wasn't
me
it
near
so
the end.
fun?
It was not fun. It was not fun at all. So Amy took my small group glute training class today, which you've heard us talk about, and I stupidly last week, I think it was one of you who had the idea. I think it was you who had the idea.
It was
like,
me.
You were like, you should do this with us next week.
Totally, it's so fun.
And I was like, I didn't believe that it was, but I was like, I'll do it with you just to like appease everybody. But then this week, like, the chickens came home to roost, and I actually had to do it, and I really didn't want to do it. And it sucked quite a bit. But everybody got to hear, and I think Meg got on video my workout face, which is not at all pleasant. It is a face of like, are you dying? Like, and I was counting for everybody, and you all heard me. Like, at one point I stopped counting because I like couldn't like focus on it, or like my counting goes from like 7 to like it's like grunt.
I think what I appreciated the most as someone who's doing the workout with you is your seconds got very fast towards the end. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, done.
I was like, we're done. I was like, I can't. I'm on, like, because Meg was just videoing me for some reason. I was like, this is not good. I like want to cry because I'll
need to check in with her to see if she got the crawl off.
Yeah, just that I fell. I just like fell down to the floor and walked away.
It was great.
Yeah, I want to make sure that I tell her to, if she's going to post it, make sure she posts the one with my right leg and not my left leg, because I didn't realize that she was recording me on my left leg, and I definitely cheated on my left leg. Definitely was holding on, because I was like, so my right leg, I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to do this for real, but it was not very fun. And using the weight that I did was it's a little bit silly, letting you guys.
I think that was your downfall.
That was a huge
the rest of us
error.
have learned.
I would have been totally fine if I had just like picked a reasonable weight, but I let you all choose. Pick the heaviest kettlebell.
Hey man, I was gonna let you do greens. You're the one who said orange. I didn't even know orange was in play.
I thought that's what everybody said was the orange kettlebells. Which were
we were making fun of another person who had been in class weeks ago who had chosen a very wrong week.
Well, I knew Matt did, but I thought he had grabbed the orange ones, but maybe that.
No.
Not. So anyway,
okay, we digress.
Here we go. We're diving in. Hopefully that's interesting to people. A little bit of brevity.
I think it's interesting because it humanizes the trainer a little bit.
Me.
How he's gonna cheat too.
Yeah, I'm definitely
if it gets really hard.
Part of it, I'm not saying that I'm not giving myself an out, but part of the reason that I cheated was my left leg I went from cold. Like, I had the only movement that I had done in the day was like a couple of demonstrations. So coming out cold right into that was a little bit rude to myself to do.
It was. But it was fun.
All right, so and I'm not going to tell anybody who's curious what it is either, because it's it was not something that I would necessarily recommend for people to just like start with at any point. Like we've been building toward this for 18 months.
Yes.
So here is what we're talking about today. This is part 3 of our series on the hierarchy of fat loss, the building blocks of fat loss. Episode 1 was a calorie deficit, which is the number one thing that we need to lose weight. Episode 2 was on protein. And today we are diving into fiber. So this is the one about fiber. I really think that we're calling these. I don't know if we'll do it for all episodes, but definitely this series is going to be named the Friend. It's the Friend series. So this will be.
I think it's fine. I like the continuity.
The name of this one is Building Blocks of Fat Loss: the one about fiber. The one about fiber. So, I was telling Amy I spent a good amount of time researching this one because fiber is not necessarily something that we talk about in our day-to-day interactions with people. And I've obviously learned about this quite a bit, but it's also not something that I go beyond a certain level with most clients because most clients don't really care. And as I was reading it, I realized that most people aren't going to really care about the different types of fiber and the different cellular walls and all of this kind of sciencey stuff that really doesn't impact our day-to-day life. However, it was good for me to kind of wrap my head around some of the nuts and bolts. So what we're going to talk about today with fiber is the same principle that we talked about with protein, which is why is fiber important? Particularly, why is it so high on my dang list? Because it's above a lot of things that other people toot their horns about. Why is it so important? How does it impact fat loss? And how do we get more of it? Particularly, I'm going to give a lot of fiber sources that I often do. And I'll actually kind of run you through a sample day for me and how making some adjustments can increase the fiber that I would get in, up or down.
I think that's going to be really helpful for folks because sometimes it's hard to kind of picture how you can work it in.
Yes, 100%. 100%. So we are going to dive right into fiber. And I will also I want to preface this with this. If you have any medical things, fiber is something more even than protein that different medical and gut history issues can play a role in. There are a lot of medical benefits for fiber, but if you have any issues, you should speak to an actual doctor or a dietitian. So, brief aside, the difference between me and a dietitian, or me and a nutritionist. Okay, nutritionist, dietitian, I am a nutrition coach, meaning I cannot and do not prescribe meal plans to people. Anybody who gives somebody a meal plan specific to that person that is not a registered dietitian or a registered nutritionist is breaking the law. It is not legal for them to do that. However, nutrition coach, which is what I am and what my certification is about helping people to make changes to their nutrition on their own. And we talk about some things. I throw out some ideas. Hey, what if we tried this? What if we tried that? But it's about behavior more than it is about prescribing you something. So if you have medical issues, particularly with relationship to your food, those people are good to work with. And I have a lot of friends in the industry who are both dietitians and nutritionists. And they have their lane, and then I have my lane. And so I'm going to do my best to stay in my lane with this conversation.
I think you'll do great.
So, I appreciate the hype. So, we're going to dive into this, and I want to start by saying this. Fiber is potentially the most underrated nutritional factor in the world. It is maybe the least talked about in terms of how it's described, but it also might have the most impact for your health of any of the different components of nutrition, including protein. I would say if I was picking something that has more contribute to your overall health and well-being, fiber might be higher on that list than protein.
Mm-hmm. If you're not thinking specifically about muscle building and retention.
So there's
overall
benefits to protein that go beyond just, just beyond the nutritional thing. But if somebody had no care in the world about their body composition but wanted to be healthier, like their body composition was fine and they wanted to be healthier, fiber might be the first place to go. Mm-hmm. And the reason why is it has dramatic links to decreases in overall gut health, blood pressure, and colon cancer. Mm-hmm. And you can kind of think as, why would it have a link to decreasing colon cancer? Well, if you have fiber, what does fiber do? The kind of like goofy thing, it just kind of gets everything out of the system, right?
Mm-hmm. Keeps things moving.
It keeps things moving. So if you're not blocked up, you're less likely to get some other random stuff happening in there, get some diseases, right? But it keeps things moving through the system. It is kind of nature's saltwater flush of your
nature's
system.
Drano.
Yeah, Drano. Thank you. That's what I meant. Nature's Drano for your body, right? In a good way. It kind of just moves everything through the system. Gut health, incredibly valuable. That's a big thing that a lot of people talk about right now. Gut health. And so this is where I want to come back to the fiber piece of it. A common thing right now is detox, juice cleanse, reset. People selling supplements that do this with the idea that we just got to flush out the system. We got to, we got to get all the toxins out of our system. Clean foods and all this kind of stuff. And it's really just, those are glorified laxatives, right?
Yes.
You just might as well just take a laxative.
It clears things out, but it doesn't help you maintain that sort of.
No. And the other thing is your body doesn't need to be detoxed from your food. It does it by itself. It's what your kidneys and liver are for. Right, that's what your body has the best detoxifiers built into it. It's how we were made. Now, what allows those to do their job the best? Relatively well-balanced diet with protein and fiber. Okay, so eating more fiber is going to allow your body to process through things at an appropriate rate. It's going to make you. So why is fiber important for fat loss? I'm going to come back to this. Number one thing, and I read this today, and I want to read it exactly verbatim because I thought it was really, really well said, the way that it was said, and I wrote it down. Hang on. Nope. Hang on. Where did it go? 2 seconds.
Oh, you're good. I can vamp.
Fiber thinks body fat is a joke.
Okay. I feel like I need that explained to me a little bit.
Here's why. Fiber is going to make you process your food faster. All right? You got to think about the journey of food from I put it in my mouth to when it comes out of my body into the bathroom, into the toilet. All right? How that journey goes is going to determine how much of the food, how the food is distributed and used appropriately. Okay, so if I eat more fiber, it's going to churn the body through. It's going to go through the body a little bit quicker. And it's going to have a little bit less time to hang around as fat.
Mm-hmm.
Just quite simply, right? That's the kind of the simple, like, if you're a scientist listening to this, if you're a I'm making this as simple as I can, right? It's going to have, there's less time for things to hang around as fat because we're working through it a little bit faster. The other way, and I think the more valuable and understandable way that fiber is super helpful for fat loss, is very similar to one of the reasons why protein is very important for fat loss, which is fiber is filling.
Yep. Very much so.
Fiber is filling. And so, again, when you're in a calorie deficit, which is the only way to lose weight, and you're trying to eat enough protein so that the weight that you lose is fat, the key to those things, the key to staying in a deficit is I have to be full on less food.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I was just talking to a client right before we started recording this about, she was like, oh, my snacking is a thing. Like, she's snacking a lot. And I'm like, well, before we talk about how do you improve your snacks, like, let's look at your meals. Like, why are you snacking? And her meals,
right.
Again, she's fairly new at this, but her meals are not super filling, right? It's a frozen burrito that she heated up, you know, or a couple slices of pizza. Like, that's not going to keep you full in between meals. And so it makes sense that you're hungry for a snack. And also, when you're hungry for a snack, you're going to be less likely to want to make a choice that's different from what I want, right? When I'm hungry, if you get to the point where I'm hungry, it's very difficult to make a logical, positive choice.
Right. That's, you're just going in the fridge and grabbing a cheese stick and then like a thing of goldfish from your kid's snack container because they're ready, they're available, and you're starving.
Whatever's easiest. Whatever's easiest is going to be what we eat. And so we need to get it to the point where we're not super hungry. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have a snack, but we can make the snack choice with a clearer mind because I'm not starving.
Right.
If I'm hungry, I'm going to succumb to my cravings. And then the other thing is I still need to stay full with what it is I'm eating. So that's one of the benefits of protein, and it's one of the real big benefits of fiber is, can I stay full on fewer calories? That's a key. And so we can end up eating more volume of food, like in terms of the actual amount of food that we're eating, for less calories if the food is higher in fiber. That's just kind of how it ends up shaking out. Let's just take a simple example that I've given before, and I think we did this during the calorie deficit one. If I had 500 calories of apple cider donuts versus 500 calories of sweet potatoes, right? I don't know if I could eat 500 calories of sweet potatoes in one sitting.
There's no way.
Like, even if they were deliciously cooked.
Yeah.
That's a crap ton of sweet potatoes.
That's so much.
That's so much sweet potatoes. And I would be so full. If I somehow made it through, I'd be so full. I could have 500 calories of apple cider donuts is 2 donuts. I could eat 2 donuts and forget that I ate them in 30 seconds. All right, and so the idea of higher fiber foods are going to kind of naturally incline me to eat less overall food in the moment, but they're also going to keep me full for longer. Because even if I didn't eat 500 calories of sweet potatoes, if I ate 250, which is still a lot of calories of sweet potatoes, like a normal person's serving of like roasted sweet potatoes is probably like 100 to 200 calories. You know, if you had like a cup of sweet potatoes, it's probably 100 to 200 calories, depending on, you know, how big a cup, you know, whatever, like a handful. A couple hundred calories, right? But if I ate that, I'm going to be pretty good for a bit. I'm going to still be full for longer than if I took that out and I replaced it with an apple cider donut, right? I'm going to be more full for longer for the same amount of calories. And again, we got to think about if the two components that are like, this is what makes fat loss is calorie deficit and sufficient protein, then everything else is there to support those two things. Everything else from here down on the list is there to make those two things easier to do. That's really what it is. Because we know that that's the blueprint. Those are the only two components that, like, really make it happen. Everything else is to make that doable and sustainable and long-term. Fiber is why it's the top of this list, is the number one thing in terms of nutritionally. What you can do is eat more fiber. You're going to stay full longer, be able to stay in your deficit, and help complement your protein.
Just thinking about, I'm looking at my day and trying to figure out what kinds of fiber I've already missed the opportunity to squeeze in.
Well, we're going to get there, 100%. So, when we're thinking about fiber, we are thinking, all right, we got to try to increase our fiber because that's what's going to happen. So, what are we looking to get? All right, just like we had the thresholds for protein, right? We had minimums, and then we had like, hey, this is kind of where we want to be. And then also, where do we get fiber from? So, thresholds for women, 25 grams per day is the generally accepted floor, like bare ass minimum. Like you eat that on a day that you go to the county fair, kind of thing. Like, gotta find a way to get 25 grams in. For men, 35 grams. Now, if you are a taller woman, a little bit larger woman, right? If you're a smaller man, right? Adjust as accordingly. But that's generally accepted as the things. But better ranges, right? For women are, 35 plus. For men, 45 plus grams per day. Honestly, I have no idea how many I get in a day. I haven't tracked in a while, but I'd be curious. I probably should have done it leading into this. I could probably piece it together based on what I know I have in a day. But you're going to feel more full doing that. This is where the spectrum of food quality can matter more. So this is my kind of theory on, and I don't know if I've heard this really anywhere or if this is just kind of something that I've kind of experienced as I've done it. The typical structure when people are talking about fat loss, the hierarchy of this, and it is the actual hierarchy, which is food volume is number one, which is your calorie deficit, food distribution, which is your macro count, protein being particular, is number two, and then food quality is number three on the list. Like how, and so food volume is how much you weigh, food distribution is how you look, like your body composition, because you could lose weight but not change your body composition. Food distribution is how you look, and then food quality is how you feel. Okay, that's the typical hierarchy, and it is the actual hierarchy of what moves the needle. I think the strategy to actually get there is to flip it on its head. What I mean by that is, instead of focusing first on, I'm going to get into a calorie deficit. And we talked about this a little bit in the calorie deficit episode. And I'll use this client that I just talked to as an example because she's very new. If she's eating, she's a stay-at-home mom with kids, right? So she's eating we talked about it today. You have less than 5 minutes to make your meal. Like 5 minutes is being generous. Like
very generous if she has multiple children at home.
Yeah, it's just that's the amount of time that you. So she's eating a lot of frozen type, like something I can just microwave up or heat up, or like a charcuterie board of just random stuff I found in the fridge, like some cheese and some salami and some fruit. Yeah. There's my meal. Yeah. For her, if I take a day that she's eating and I say, all right, try to hit this calorie deficit, like, what do I do? Like, do I just eat less of this food? Like, that's really hard because that food is also not really making me full. Same idea if so I then...
not only be in a calorie deficit, she'll be unhappy because she's not getting enough food.
She won't be able to stick with it because it's just, I got to eat less of what I'm already eating.
Yeah.
Whereas, and even still the protein thing, even if I was like, all right, protein, all right, well, what proteins am I going to do? Like, I don't have protein. I can't eat more protein because I don't really have a lot going on here. So the first focus for her is actually to start to move the needle on some of the quality of her food, not from red all the way up to green on a red, yellow, green light spectrum, right? It doesn't have to go from Frosted Flakes immediately to steel cut oats. That's too big of a leap. You'll never make that leap. Okay? But can I move the needle a little bit on the things that I'm already eating to increase the quality of it? Because what's going to happen when I'm increasing the quality, when I'm trying to add in some fiber, when I'm trying to add in some things that are higher quality, and I'm going to get some higher quality food that are going to fill me up more, I'm going to naturally be pointed toward, I'm going to eat more protein. Because where am I going to get, right? I'm going to naturally go to more protein. And then when I'm eating more protein and I'm eating higher quality food, I'm going to probably backdoor my way into a calorie deficit.
That's what I've found has happened with my husband John and I. We've been focusing a lot on our protein and our vegetable intake just because like I knew that we needed more vegetables in our lives. I do have GI issues. He has GI issues. We have needed to have a higher fiber content than most people just because my body doesn't work the way it should. And we have found it was like shockingly easy or easier than when we started trying to just cut calories. Yeah. It was way easier to start by looking at the amount and the quality of the protein and I wasn't thinking about fiber specifically, but I was thinking about fruits and vegetables.
Well, that is going to be the main place where you're going to get fruits, fiber, and we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
It's much easier.
You kind of naturally, because now all of a sudden I'm eating more fruits and vegetables, I'm eating more high fiber things, I'm staying full longer, I'm eating more protein, I'm staying full longer. I'm going to naturally eat less overall food. Yes. Because I'm more full from the food that I'm eating. And so I might even get into a calorie deficit without ever having to track anything. And so this is what I work on with my clients is I start with, you accidentally get into a calorie deficit or you get darn close to it when you finally start tracking and you're like, oh, I'm actually not that far away. I can just make a couple of adjustments. But now I have a system. Now I'm eating in a way. So this is the flipping it on its head where you focus first on your quality and the fiber and the quality of the food that you're eating, moving that needle. And again, I'm not talking about never eating foods that are quote unquote red light items. Like red light is not like don't eat ever. It's like right turn on red. Like stop, make sure that you actually want to go, and then go if you want to go. But pick your items. But if we can move, if your distribution of your food between green light foods, right, high quality, low processed foods, yellow light foods, somewhere in the middle, red is a little bit higher processed, it should not, the goal is not 100% green, right? Because then you're miserable. Yes. But if you're 60+% red right now, can we move this so it's 40, 50, 60% green? 60% green, 25% yellow, 15% red. If you were there, I could almost guarantee you're in a calorie deficit. I could almost guarantee it. If that's how your distribution of your food was. If you're like 60% of my food is like the perimeter of the grocery store, 25% is kind of the better choices in the middle of the aisles, and then 15% is not found in the grocery store. It's found, in a vending machine. No, it's found in a restaurant, in a vending machine. There's nothing good in a vending machine. Agreed. Have you heard? There's a comedian called Gary Goldman. Have you heard of him?
I've probably seen him on the Instagram.
Yeah, he did a whole. He's fantastic, but he did a whole clip about. I'm gonna butcher it, but he talked about like the candy dispensers at the front of the grocery store, and he's like, which like aren't there anymore. This shows how old the clip was, but 10 years ago we remember these things. You put a quarter in, you spin the thing, and you get like a tumbler of Mike and Ike's that have been there since like 1942. And Correct. He's like, they sell Mike and Ike's in the store at a lower cost per pound, fresher and in like hermetically sealed packages, and you're like, no, I want the ones that like children with hepatitis A, B, and C have like crawled and tried to crap out. And that's the one I want. The novelty of it. No, there's nothing good in vending machines.
I used to work at a school. I was a teacher for a long time, and we had the old school. It was brown, and you could see the very top row is where the cigarettes used to be. Like, it was that, like, the cranky one. It wasn't even, like, you didn't push buttons. You had to crank.
Yeah.
And it would, like, unwind. But we had the row of cigarettes, which thankfully there weren't there anymore. Mm-hmm. But then the rows underneath were Pop-Tarts and, like, Oreos, like all the things that a desperate teacher who has 2 minutes while they're photocopying and peeing and walking other kids to the nurse, you have to run in and grab that.
Yeah.
I was victim to the Pop-Tart more than once.
Yeah. Planning and preparation. Planning and preparation. We'll do a whole episode on planning and preparation.
Whole episode. Back to what you were talking about with the quality and thinking about your client who is still snacking a lot. Mm-hmm. With planning and thinking about your meals and including more fiber and including more protein, I love snacking. I don't necessarily need it, but I like it. I enjoy having breaks and like having a nice little snack. I don't have the room for it. So I'll go downstairs because it's my routine is to go, like, leave my office, go downstairs, look for something to eat, and I'm like, I'm not at all hungry. But that's when I reach for an apple or I reach for carrots because I'm like, I need something in my body. Might as well have it be something that's going to do good instead of just taste good.
100%. This is why we're talking about. This is gaming the system. This is hacking your own brain into, like, if I'm not starving, I'm going to be less inclined to go to the wicked yummy thing, and I'm going to be more inclined to make at least a conscious choice of what I want. Mm-hmm. When you're hungry, you don't want an apple.
No,
it just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen.
And
you don't want carrots. No, you're like, I'm going to eat this and I'm going to still be hungry.
Yep.
But you're going, like, the habit of snacking, though, is like, this is people are like, oh, I got to stop late night snacking. I'm like, you don't have to stop late night snacking. You just, it's a habit for you. But, like, we've talked about this. Like, you guys have I bought John the popcorn maker for air pop popcorn.
Oh, my God, we use it all the time.
I was like, John,
it sits on our counter. We never even put it away because we use it so frequently. Sorry,
but it's like, there's nothing wrong with having the late night snack. It's just a matter of, like, if you can do it. Like, if you're hungry after dinner, then air popped popcorn with some sprinkled whatever on there is not going to cut it. If you're full from dinner and satisfied and you just want something to munch on, then air pop popcorn will do the trick. And then you can get, like, you can now have a snack, air pop popcorn, like, you could get a whole bowl of that for like 100 calories. You know what I mean?
It's ridiculous.
You can have so much.
It's ridiculous how much
but you're never going to make that choice if you're like, dinner wasn't satisfying to me. You're just not going to make that choice. You're going to go to eat the Oreos by the sleeve or, whatever. Like, you're going to go to the thing that it's not even necessarily that you want it. It's just you're going to be less inclined to make that quality choice. And so staying full and being satisfied within your meals in particular is going to make the natural result of snacking a little bit clear-minded, at least. Mm-hmm. And so flipping the tradition, even this hierarchy that I'm saying, it is the hierarchy, right? You need a calorie deficit first, then you need protein, and then all of these other things make you feel better in the process, make it easier to do. But you got to focus on the process to get the outcome. It's like if I were to, and again, I know I use a lot of financial examples here, but if I had your budget, right, or my budget, my family budget, and I just said, okay, we want to save more money. All right? I'm going to save more money, which means we need to spend less. Mm-hmm. But I don't know what I spend any money on, right? I've never tracked what I spend. I just know that I want to save money. If I have no idea what I spend my money on, right, that's going to be difficult for me. If I don't know how it's distributed amongst the things, it's going to be really difficult for me. But also, I need this to be relatively easy for me in order to... I can't just, like, will myself not to spend money if I've never... I have to pick the spots for me to be like, you know what? This is going to satisfy my desire to spend money on X. Right? This is the cut mercilessly on the things that you don't care about, spend lavishly on the things that you do. Well, what makes it a lot easier to cut mercilessly is, when it comes to food, is fiber. Because you're like, I don't need the goldfish. I'm going to spend lavishly on the cheesecake. You know, or whatever it is. I'm gonna have the thing that I really want. But how do I do that?
Interestingly, my big spend is always going to be a dessert, always. But since I was young, dessert is an evening thing. You don't have it at all during the day because you just don't. Dessert comes after dinner, and I don't have room for dessert anymore because I'm eating too much damn protein.
Well, there you go.
Which is good.
It's a good thing.
Damn it.
Well, so this is where you can kind of go there, right? So this is an interesting thing to play with. And I want to kind of get into this and then go into the next piece of it, which is...
Yeah.
First of all, right, that's not... You can be a little bit more strategic with your desserts, right? Because, again, instead of having dessert every night, right, I can be really strategic and be like, I'm not going to have a mediocre dessert every night. I'm going to have a delicious dessert once or twice a week. But also, it allows you to be a little bit more strategic with what it is that you're eating, right? I'm like, all right, if my dinner is... wait, before I go there. Second thing, so we're three things. First thing, be a little bit more strategic. Second thing, you're going to be more okay with, I don't want to, the quote unquote poor man's version of dessert, right? Meaning that, like this, another one that I told John about, because I knew he liked ice cream, and I did this before I did my dumb ice cream thing, and I may never eat ice cream again.
Now you're never eating ice cream.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever do it again. But Halo Top ice cream, or like there's other ones like this where low calorie ice creams, which are like
good.
They're actually pretty good. Now, are they the same as Ben and Jerry's? Of course not. But it actually feels better for me. Like my stomach feels better, certainly now. But even the first time that I had, like before the disaster happened, the first day that I had my pint of Ben and Jerry's, afterward I was like, man, that was heavy. Like that was a lot. Versus I had a pint of Halo Top, 300 calories, and I was like, that felt good. Like that felt fine. I feel good and ready to rock and roll after that.
Yeah, I don't like ice cream, but I like Halo Top. There's something about ice cream. It's too creamy, too milky. Like I don't like how it feels in my throat. Yeah. So Halo Top is not
the lighter. You're gonna be more apt to be willing to do the lighter version of it,
right?
Because you're not as hungry. And then the third thing is you can make some strategic decisions within your dinner or within your meals, right? You can pull back once you have a routine. So you take your dinner, right? Let's take a staple dinner at the Delzell household, steak and some sort of vegetables, broccoli or asparagus or something like that. Brussels sprouts roasted, summer squash and zucchini roasted with roasted sweet potatoes, right? That's a pretty staple meal. We'll have that once every week and a half or so, week and a half. I think we had it last night, actually. And so, but if I knew that I was going to have dessert, really easy. I'm not going to eat the sweet potatoes. I still have I have my protein, I got my fiber in the vegetables, and then I throw in the dessert. Easy enough to do. But if I understand where all these things play their role, then that's super helpful. So, how do we get, and we've kind of alluded to it, how do we get more fiber in our diets? The number one, the easiest place to do it is eat more plants, right? Eat more fruits and vegetables. All right, if it grows out of the ground, probably got some fiber in it. It's going to have some fiber in it. Fruits and vegetables are the number one source of fiber, right, in general. Just as an example, I could have, let's say, again, going back to the example, I could have an entire, like, bowl of mixed greens, right, on it with a little bit of dressing. I could eat that, just a giant vat of it, and it would probably be like 80 calories with the dressing on it, depending on how much dressing I did, right? And by the way, salads are not a dressing delivery system. Let's just make that clear. Okay. But I can eat all of that, and I would be relatively, I'm not saying I would be full, but like that would take up some space in my belly for not a lot of calories versus call it 80 calories. 80 calories is is 1 tablespoon of peanut butter.
That's hard to hear.
I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with peanut butter, right? Again, this isn't to demonize, but I'm saying that you can have a lot of volume of food for a lot fewer calories. It's like watermelon, right? You have watermelon in the summer, and you're like, now I don't really like watermelon, but you could have watermelon. I like watermelon flavored things.
I was going to say, I thought your margarita
I like
choice.
It is. This is the weirdest thing. Now, I like good watermelon, like good fresh watermelon, but I feel like I have that once out of every 10 watermelons that I ever have. Like somebody cuts a watermelon and I'm like, this was 2 days early or 2 days late. Like this is just watermelon flavored water, like poorly. Yeah. This is like a diluted version of my drink. I was like, but I really like watermelon flavored drinks and candy. Like Sour Patch watermelon is like my go-to candy.
Oh, that's the best one. That's the best one in the bag.
It's
so good.
It's so good.
Sour watermelon.
I wish that I had it. So I'm actually so again, I don't drink coffee, so I have like an energy drink every day because I have to like function. I need some caffeine, and so normally I've been drinking water. These are watermelon bursts, but right now this is strawberry guava, which is pretty good. But watermelon burst is even better.
Polar Seltzer has a new. I don't know how new it is. It's new to me. It's the strawberry watermelon flavor. It is delicious.
I don't do seltzer water. Seltzer water for me is just not. No, I don't. I'm not against it. I think that a lot of people should drink it because they like the flavor of it. But for me, it's like it's like not flavored enough. I'm like, you either need to be the flavor. It's like fake water. It's like if I took watermelon juice and I like diluted it with water, you know, or like I do with my kids. Like I do, you know, a splash of apple juice and then half the thing of water, you know. That's what it tastes like. I'm like, this is apple juice flavored water, you know, like that's what this is.
God, like, it was less than a year ago that Emerson poured her own glass of apple juice, like without us knowing that she was doing it. She's like, is this new? Is it new apple juice? It tastes very different.
What have you been doing to me my whole life? You've kept this
But she's like, it's really appley. It's really strong. I'm like, yes, we water it down, not just because of the sugar, but because it is.
It's like the kid version of the first time somebody has a martini. It's like, this is like all alcohol. Like, what is it?
Oh my God, we were traveling this summer, and my nephew, who had turned 21 like minutes before this trip, he ordered an extra dirty martini when we were all out at lunch, and we're all like, Are you sure?
That's so bad.
I'm like, you can have a beer. Like, all of us are having beers. It's a hot day. He's like, no, I want an extra dirty martini. I'm a martini drinker, and I took a sip, and I was like, oh, it's strong.
Jeez.
He took like 3 sips and was asleep.
Yeah,
He could not handle it.
Oh my God. Did I ever tell you about the time that I accidentally did a shot of gin? Have I told you the story?
That just makes...
No, okay, so we got to tell the story and then we'll get back to fiber. This is the only problem of you and I doing this together is that we get off on tangents. But I think it's part of the appeal, but or maybe the appeal to me.
Yeah, I like it. It's
so when I was teaching, we did like twice a year. My math department, there were like two groups. There was like those of us who were 35 and under, and then there was like the ones who were 50 and over and like didn't really want to hang out with us. But the younger group of teachers, we would go out for drinks like right before Christmas break and then right before the end of the school year. And so we went out to drinks, and one of the other teachers ordered a dirty martini with gin, and then ice water. Like she wanted a glass of ice water on the side with her martini. And so they bring over a martini glass, and then they brought over like a fancy looking shot glass with clear liquid in it, sitting on ice, like in a cup of ice. So it was like a cup of ice with like a fancy looking shot glass, kind of like a carafe, like you would do. But she thought that was the ice water. She's a bartender, and
Shows
she
how
was
young
like,
you are.
no, she's a bartender. She was, at the time like 10 years older than me, but she was like, sometimes they bring over water on ice to like for people to dilute their martini. Like this was a nicer place, and so she's like, maybe that's what he interpreted. So like we thought it was sitting there for 25 minutes. And we all thought it was water, and we were just chuckling about it. And I was like, at one point, somebody said, like, Jeff, you should. I said something along the lines of like, I've done like 2 shots in my life, like when I was very, very young, and I was like, I don't like shots. And they're like, well, you should do a shot of the water and like to practice it. And I was like, oh, that'd be funny. And she was like, do it. Because she thinks it's the water, right? Like, she's like, she wouldn't do it. And so I do it. I'm like, all right, here we go. Boom. Shoot back. And it's gin. And I was like, that wasn't water.
And gin is hard. Gin is hard.
You know what, though? I'm going to be honest with you.
Gin.
It was the smoothest shot of my life. Because it was like hot. It was like Bombay Sapphire or something like that. So it was like good gin.
Good stuff.
And I'm not like I don't do hard. Like I get the drink that doesn't taste like alcohol. I'm like, it's a little bit strong.
Yeah.
Can I get a little bit more simple syrup in here, please? Like, can I get this to be a little bit fruitier? But my face, like, I wish that they had videoed it, but like my face when I came up was like, that was not water. And they're like, are you serious? And they're like, oh my gosh, because it was like a triple shot. Like it was a lot of. And she was like, she wasn't upset with me, but she was like, I would have never let you do it if I knew. Like I paid for that. That was like $10 worth of gin.
Damn it, that was the rest of my martini.
That was the rest of my martini. And I was like, yeah, that was not one of my better moments. It was
good stories though.
That was great.
It's all these stories that we can relay as we get old and are no longer fun.
Yeah, they still remember that. They'll like message me, hey, remember that time you took a shut at gin?
Remember
like,
that gin
I do
shot?
remember, because it was one of the most shocking moments of my life to like expect water and get gin. Was because I went like, guzzling it
like
down.
Kinda.
I was like, it was aggressive. It was an aggressive play for gin. How do we end up there?
I don't know.
What were we talking about?
How did we get
fruits and
there?
vegetables are so you can fruits. Jeez, fruits and vegetables are the number one source of fiber. You can eat a lot of them for not a lot of calories. Okay, so getting a lot of fruits and vegetables, adding that into your nutrition, just like adding protein, adding vegetables is going to be a natural way for you to, instead of, I don't need to cut carbs, quote unquote, I could naturally, same thing, I can naturally eat less carbs by eating more fruits and vegetables. Now, fruit and vegetables are technically a carb. Like, let me be clear about this. They are fibrous carbohydrates versus starchy carbohydrates. Okay? Right. Fibrous carbohydrates are going to be a little bit more filling, but they're going to, like, I don't need to cut out the pasta at my dinner, but if I have a plate, right, thinking about a plate, this is the portion plate idea. If 40% of my plate is made up of protein and 40% of my plate is made up of fruits and vegetables, the 20% carbs can be whatever the heck I want it to be. It could be Oreos. It could be an apple cider donut. I don't care. But if most of my plate is the other things, it's going to naturally, by eating more, I'm going to be less hungry for the other pieces of it. Mm-hmm. And you've experienced this. If I eat more fruits and vegetables, I eat more protein, I am going to be more full and not necessarily need the other things. And so how do I do this? I'm going to add in some vegetables. This is going to be where the most common thing, and we talked about this, I don't really like vegetables. I don't really care. Be a grown-up and eat your vegetables. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you tell this to your kids, like, eat your damn vegetables. All right, this is like time to put on your big boy, big girl pants and eat some vegetables. Now, find a way to eat them in a way that is enjoyable. You don't have to eat every vegetable.
No,
I beat the heck out of kale. I tell people all the time, kale tastes like the ground.
I love kale.
Yeah, well, that's fine. You can like kale all you want, but I'm going to be objectively, kale tastes like the ground. Like you like eating dirt is really what you're telling me right now.
Delicious.
No.
Well, I like a red wine that's a little earthy, so yeah.
Earthy with some body. Just say random
Kale.
words when you. I like an oaky afterbirth. The Michael Scott go. It's got an oaky afterbirth.
Oh my god.
Jeez. We're never gonna get through this episode. So
Fiber.
the only way I like kale, is when it's in a soup and it no longer has the molecular integrity of kale. At which point it probably no longer has the same fiber benefits, and so it's probably not worth. It has the same vitamins in it, but it's like wilted and doesn't look like kale anymore. But pro tip, and again, I come back to I said this in the protein episode. One of my favorite Gordon Ramsay quotes: "No color, no flavor." So if you're eating steamed vegetables, I am not surprised you don't like your vegetables. Put some heat on them, right? Saute them in a pan with a little bit of olive oil. Roast them in an oven with some olive oil, some salt and pepper, and mix them in with something else too, right? So like eat a bite that has all three components on it, right? I have a bite that has steak, sweet potatoes, and broccoli on it. This is not we're not children anymore where our food can't touch, right? Like if you eat a couple things together, it's meant to, like, you go to a restaurant, the foods are all overlapping because they're meant to be eaten together. Food is meant to be eaten together, and it helps hide, quote unquote, the vegetables if you eat it with something that's yummy. Like, I'm not going to just sit there and eat a bowl of broccoli. Like, I don't care how I cooked it. That's a tough sell for me, but I can eat a bowl's worth of broccoli if I have a bowl, for every bite of broccoli, I have a bite of steak and a bite of sweet potatoes. That'll do it. Okay? So eat more vegetables and eat more fruit. This is where if I'm having more vegetables in my meals, then I can end up having more. I'm not as hungry for those other snacks, so you can make the choices for fruits, things like that. Those are great snacks in between your meals. Fruits, fantastic.
What are some good grab and goes for fiber sources? Like I'm thinking about your client who has 2 seconds to grab something to eat.
So fruit is going to be a big one, right? So think about grab and go fruits are going to be apples and bananas are going to be good ones. But the other thing is like raw vegetables, like that's a tough sell for me. Like you can't really get it's a tough sell to get me to eat carrot sticks or something like that. You can do it, but that feels like you're an animal eating rabbit food. That's a tough sell. But the thing is, you don't necessarily need it to be grab and go. It's a matter of, because if your main meals have fiber in them, again, if we're talking about, let's call it for ease of numbers, okay, let's call it 39, all right, and I'm having 3 meals, 39 grams of fiber, 3 meals, that's 13 grams per meal, okay, that is a very attainable number to get within each meal, so you don't even really need to get it within your snacks, though you can get more, right, within your snacks, or you could get 12 in each of your meals, or if you're, like, again, you could start lower than that. You could start with 8 in each of your meals. 8 times 3 is 24, which is basically where that bare minimum for women, and then you have a piece of fruit, now you're over the threshold, okay? So, but the question is, how do I make some swaps that have some more fiber in them? So this is where we talk about moving things along the spectrum. So let's just take a breakfast as an example. Let's just take a common breakfast. I have common breakfast that's just a bowl of cereal. Okay? So we talked about last week, add protein into that. So on the side, tons of different options. Scrambled eggs, whatever. Let's just say that that's what it is. Scrambled eggs, and I still have my oatmeal. Or I'm sorry, I still have my cereal, whatever it is. How do I get more fiber in there? Well, there's a couple different ways. One, I could put some veggies into my scramble. Easy enough, right? Some frozen vegetables. Throw them in the pan first. Get a little bit of color on there. Throw the eggs on. Mix them up. A little veggie scramble. That's one way. Another way is, can I move the needle on my carb source? If I'm having Frosted Flakes, don't go all the way to steel cut oats. That's too big of a leap. But if I'm having Frosted Flakes, could I go to Wheaties? Wheaties are going to be, it's a similar thing, right? But that's going to have a little bit more fiber in it. Can I go from Wheaties to the instant oatmeal, like the little packets of oatmeal? That's going to have a little bit of fiber in it. And then can I kind of remake my own instant oatmeal in by myself. If I'm getting the apples and cinnamon instant oatmeal, could I get rolled oats, put cinnamon and apples in there myself? Yeah, I probably could.
Yes.
Right? So now, and that's going to taste about the same for, and again, do that over time, right? That's not like in a week. Do that over a course of a couple of weeks. You could also just stay with the cereal and add some fruit into the cereal. So I have my Wheaties. I put some blueberries in there. Blueberries have a ton of fiber in there. Raspberries have a ton of fiber in there. And that tastes delicious. And you get a little pop with the blueberries. All right? Fantastic. Do that. Can I get, there are high fiber cereals, like bran bits or grape nuts. Now, are those as yummy as Frosted Flakes? No, they're not. They're not. But you move the needle a little bit, but you can add a little bit of sweetness from your fruit, right? You add a little bit of that from your fruit, things like that. And you got to find that happy medium between like, all right, this isn't going to taste like the best thing in the world, but it's also not going to be I'm forcing myself to eat it. You got to find that balance between them.
I'm that weirdo that as a kid, like middle school, my favorite cereal was Grape Nuts with chopped up grapes. Grape Nuts and grapes. That was my favorite cereal.
Mine was Grape Nuts and blueberries. Grape Nuts and blueberries.
See? Yeah. I'm
so
not
good.
the only weirdo.
Nope,
it's
good.
delicious. And Annabelle's just got rid of their grape nut flavored ice cream, which was the only good one in my opinion.
Yeah. Grape Nuts are quite good.
Wonderful. Underrated.
So, again, move the needle a little bit there. Lunch, here's an example, right? So, again, I'm going to take a common one. I have a deli sandwich, right? I got, deli meat on some white bread with some cheese, and that's my, mustard, mayonnaise, whatever it is. That's my, so, all right, what can I do there? Can I swap the white bread for a higher fiber bread? Yeah, I can do that. And then I can also swap out the deli meat for some chicken. Like that's something we talked about last week, a little bit less processed there. And then can I add some veggies into that? Some lettuce, some tomato, whatever it is. Or can I just put a big salad on the side of that? Right? Boom. There it is. Dinner. We've talked, I think, about a lot of dinner examples. Leftovers from dinner are great lunches.
Yes, that's what my lunch is today. Leftover dinner.
Leftover dinner. But here's the other thing that you can think about is, can I find some things that are going to like game the system? So this is like the craziest thing. So I've had for the longest time, my lunch, as long as I'm prepped for it, is a chicken fajita wrap. It's grilled chicken, sauteed peppers and onions on a wrap with some hot sauce. It's delicious. The whole thing to cook, right? I cook the chicken on Saturday. I saute that whole thing takes me 15 to 20 minutes, right? Put chicken on the grill, salt and pepper, put the peppers and onions in the pan. By the time the chicken's done cooking, peppers and onions are done cooking. Boom. Cut up the chicken, throw the things in there, put it in the microwave for 2 minutes. There it is. So, obviously I got peppers and onions, which are going to have some fiber in them. Are they the highest fiber vegetables? No, but I like them and that goes with it. But also, here's a great example. What wrap I choose is going to make a difference. So there are the Mission basic wraps, right? The original Mission wraps are like 200 calories and have like 3 grams of fiber in them. They make Mission quote-unquote carb balance ones. I don't like how they market it, but they make carb balance ones, which are really, really high in fiber. They have 25 grams of fiber in these things.
Goodness gracious.
That's literally a day's worth in one wrap.
Yeah, in one wrap.
In one wrap. So and it's 110 calories. So I'm 100 less calories, a bunch more fiber. I'm more full, and it tastes about the same. Honestly, it tastes a little bit better to me because it doesn't like fall apart in my hand.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be more satisfied for less calories and more fiber. And that wrap is, it's like 400 calories max. Like it's probably 350, which is not a lot of food for me. And that keeps me full for just as long as anything else because of how much fiber's in there. Like I had that today. I had that at 11. It's 1:30. I'm sitting pretty. And I'm normally hungry every 2.5 to 3 hours. Now I'll eat after this. But like it can hold me over for the amount of calories that I ate. It can hold me over for a lot longer because of the amount of fiber that's in there. So you can kind of pick swaps like that where you're like, all right, I'll pick the higher fiber option. It's probably going to taste about the same, but it's going to do it. So I'm going to run through real quick I have a list here
Yes.
of high fiber things. Where did it go?
Okay, I'm ready.
Here we go.
I'm ready, and I'm excited because I need a few new
All right,
ideas.
here we go. 17 really high fiber sources. And these are mostly going to be fruits and vegetables, okay? But here we go. Raspberries. As an example, I'm not going to give this for everybody. 8 grams per cup of raspberries.
Wow, that's good.
It's a lot, right? So again, if I put now a cup of raspberries is a decent amount of
It's
raspberries.
also like $8 for that many.
Yeah, I'm not
raspberries.
saying it's not, but like it's per unit, right? Per pound,
Yeah.
it's raspberries, blackberries, avocados are really high in fiber,
Oh my
right?
God,
So
so
this
good.
is one of those things like not all calories are created the same. Artichoke hearts, all right. Beans are a good one. I haven't really talked about this. Beans and legumes are a good source. So navy
Yeah.
beans, black beans, edamame, which actually have a little bit of protein in them too. Those are kind of cool.
I'm gonna keep those on hand at all times.
Yep.
That's a great one for kids too because they like them.
Pumpkin seeds, oatmeal I talked about, lentils, acorn squash, kidney beans, pears, apples, popcorn. The air pop popcorn actually has a good amount of fiber in it. Basil seeds. So there's something called Zen basil seeds, which are just basically like a lot. Chia seeds, and
All the flax and stuff.
flax seeds. Those have some. You want to
Flaxseed,
again. You
hemp
want to be a
seeds.
little bit more aware of those because those are a lot of fat. Again, a lot of calories for them. It's not something that you need to avoid, but you just want to be aware of them. And then these tortillas. So this idea of can I do this is just add some in and make some swaps. The last thing I want to talk about with this before I get to my overarching like last main tip here is the idea of net carbs. And the reason why I say this is because of this carb balance. So it says on these like high fiber things, you're going to see stuff that's like net carbs, quote unquote, is the marketing because they're trying to market to the people who are like keto. I got to be low carb.
Keto.
Yeah. So these, and that's why I don't love the name of these Mission ones, that they're Mission Carb Balance, and it's only 5 grams of net carbs, right? All that they're doing is taking the actual amount of carbs in there, which is 30, minus the fiber 25, and saying it's 5 grams of net carbs. Don't think about that. It's really not a factor. It's just not, it's a marketing ploy that they're trying to put at you. But the idea behind it is if something's marketing as low net carbs, it's probably high fiber. That's really what it is. So if you see
how they
something
get
that's
it to
talking
that low.
about net carbs, the only way that they're getting to net carbs is if it has a lot of fiber in it. So it's worth looking at something that's marketing itself that way because it's going to be oftentimes higher in fiber than otherwise. And it's not because we don't want to eat carbs, but because we want to have more fiber.
And texturally, like I've done a comparison just because I was curious for our own, as we're using these. We don't eat a ton of bread for sandwiches. We like wraps. And I was looking doing the side by side at home of the Mission, because it's the kind we've always gotten, the carb balance ones. And then there's some, I think it's Cedar's brand, but they market themselves as kind of like a higher protein wrap.
Yeah.
They taste like I
Yeah.
can't tell the difference in taste.
No.
But if you're heating them up and using them and like trying to manipulate them and wrap them, the higher protein ones are like rice paper. They kind of just fall apart as you're trying to fold it in half. Which, for some utilizations that doesn't really matter all that much. But if you're trying to eat on the go, it's impossible. So just having the option of the Mission ones has been kind of where we've leaned. But if anyone out there is curious, I've done the research.
Yeah.
I've done
They keep together because they're a little bit higher in fiber. So
Yeah.
eat your fruits and vegetables.
Yeah. Boys
In
and girls,
doing
eat your
these-
fruits and vegetables.
Eat your fruits and vegetables. So this is a pretty popular thing. I did not invent this, but a pretty popular structure for just fat loss in general, and is an example of why this works. Okay, is called the 3-2-1 method for fat loss. Okay, have we talked about this? I don't know. Possibly. All right. So 3-2-1 method for fat loss. I'm going to have 3 glasses of water every day. I don't really care what the glass is, right? 3 glasses of water every day. All right, we're going very loose with the structure here, but the idea is to get us moving in the right habits in the right direction with habits. 3 glasses of water every day, 2 pieces of fruit every day, and 1 big ass salad every day.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm doing those 3 things, I'm going to naturally end up eating less food in terms of calories. I'm just going to naturally end up doing it because those things are going to fill me up. I'm not going to be drinking as many calories oftentimes with the water. I'm going to stay a little bit more full from the fruits and the vegetables. And I don't care what's in the salad, okay? But that's a really easy way to, like, my lunch is a big ass salad as an example, right? I'm going to, you could do apple walnut salad. So you got apples, so there's some fruit, right? Apples and some walnuts and some craisins, and then you throw some chicken on there, and then there's with some spring mix, and there's a lunch, and that's going to be filling. That's going to be filling and delicious. Right? You could do a Greek salad with some olives and some, a little bit of feta cheese and some cucumbers and grape tomatoes or whatever, right? And
cottage cheese.
Ugh, vomit. I'm just going to vomit all over the place.
No, it's the best way to extend your dressing. Like if you're a person who needs their lettuce as a dressing conveyor belt kind of system like you were talking about, that's a good way to extend your dressing. You need like a teaspoon of dressing in a quarter cup of cottage cheese.
A quarter cup? Oh my God.
That's like half a serving.
I'm not, listen, if you like, I think that's an interesting idea if you can get past the fact that it's disgusting, but,
I'm going to have you over for dinner. I'm just going to serve you kale and cottage cheese.
Kale and cottage cheese. That's a real good way to make sure that I never come over again. Like this.
That's all we eat, Jeff. Sorry.
Sorry, that's where we're at. So if you're able to do those 2 things, whether you're doing your salad on the side or as the main course, I don't really care. But if you're doing those things, 3, 2, 1, you're adding more fiber in, you are going to naturally be more full, which means you're going to naturally eat less food, which means you're going to sort of make it easier to stay in a calorie deficit for long enough to see the results that you want to see. So, that was, I hope we didn't I don't think we got too into the weeds.
I don't think we got too in the weeds now.
Tried to be fairly practical with this, but why I think it's so important is if somebody were to come to me and they were to say, I want to lose fat, but I don't want to count my calories, what do? I would say you need to eat more fruits and vegetables and you need to eat more protein. If you're doing those 2 things, you're probably going to end up there. You might not end up there right away. You might not end up there at quite the deficit, but if somebody's eating fruits and vegetables with fair amount of regularity, and if they were hitting these fiber numbers, if somebody was hitting their fiber numbers on the higher end, like if somebody was hitting 40 plus grams of fiber and then 1 gram per pound of body weight of protein, they're probably in a calorie deficit. They just are, because they're going to be too full to be eating a bunch of extra stuff.
Can confirm.
So you will naturally start to see the scale move as a result of that. You're also going to feel better. So this is coming back to how do you feel, right? Which is highly underrated. How do you feel in, like, not just like emotionally and things like that, but like, do you feel full? Do you feel satisfied? Do you feel energetic? Right? Because you could.
That's the big one for me.
Could you lose weight being in a calorie deficit eating only donuts? You absolutely could.
Absolutely.
Could you lose weight? Yeah, but you would feel like crap. Could you lose fat being in a calorie deficit eating just drinking protein shakes and eating donuts for the rest of your calories? You could. You absolutely could, but you would be starving and you would feel like trash. You would feel like trash. Like you wouldn't have any energy. And let's just be quite frank about this. I know that this whole series is about the building blocks for losing body fat, but not everything is about losing body fat. It's not all about that. Because, this is really easy for me to get to another 15 minutes here. I'm going to try to do a mini version of what should be a whole podcast. If you can't start to live the life that you want to live in the process of getting to the weight that you want to get to, that when you get there, you will not be satisfied. It will not solve the problems magically for you. You won't feel the way that you want to feel, that you dream that you will feel when you get there. There's nothing magic about it. If during the process you don't learn how to feel okay about the things that you're doing and have the energy to do the things that you're doing beyond just I've hit the weight. So, and the tools that you need to maintain weight loss are the same ones that you need to get weight loss, which are you will eat protein for the rest of your life. You will eat fiber for the rest of your life. You will need to sleep. You will need to walk. You will need to strength train. You will need to everything, items 2 through 7 on the list of the building blocks of fat loss, you will do for the rest of your life. The only thing that changes from losing fat to maintaining versus even trying to build muscle is calorie deficit. And you just, the only thing that changes is you eat probably 500 more calories a day. That is literally the only difference. And so the process of feeling better along the way, where all of a sudden I start to feel more energetic. I start to feel like I don't feel like I'm not bloated as much. I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable. I'm feeling a little bit more full. I'm feeling a little bit more satisfied. All of that allows you to stick with it long enough to see results, because you're like, you know what? I actually feel a little bit better today. Versus doing something that is just, you feel like trash. Because that's the original order. This is where the if it fits your macros mindset is flawed, right? This was a big trend 5 years ago, and there are still people who peddle this. And again, I'm not saying that you can't eat the things that you want to eat, but I am saying the idea of just eat whatever quality food you want, as long as you hit your macros and your calorie deficit, then you're going to see results. You will see results. You will see fat loss results. But how will you feel during that process? Will you be able to stick with it long enough to do it? Because the scale is slow to move. Inches are slower to come off than we want them to be. Progress is slower than we want them to be. And if we feel like trash during the process and the scale is moving at a reasonable pace, which is 2 to 4 pounds a month, if I lose 2 pounds in a month, and for the month of that I feel like garbage, it's going to be really hard for me to sign up for another month of doing that. But if I lose 2 pounds and a couple of inches in a month, but I have more energy and I feel more full and I don't feel as bloated and, I'm a little bit more regular and all this kind of stuff, it's like, all right, I can see that there's benefits to this.
Wish this is what all of those places like Weight Watchers and Noom would peddle, is your, like, how do you feel? Not just, because back when Weight Watchers was a little bigger than it is now, their goal was 2 pounds a week, which is a lot.
It's a lot.
And nearly impossible to get.
Yeah.
So, like, you were in a constant calorie deficit and not in a healthy way. It was more of a, you ate an apple, now you need to go run that off and get your activity points so you can have dinner.
Yeah. How you feel is going to determine what you do, for good or for bad. Now, it shouldn't, right? Mentally, it shouldn't. I don't feel good today. I don't feel like doing this. Well, again, I don't feel like eating vegetables. Well, put your big boy pants on. I don't feel like working out. Like, you still have to do it. Okay. But it still makes it that much easier to do, right? When I feel energetic, it's a lot easier for me to go get my workout in.
It's true.
It's a lot easier and this is kind of leading into next week. It's a lot easier to go do the things that I need to do. Right? This is leading into sleep here. A lot easier for me to go do the things that I need to do when I feel good versus when I feel like trash. I need to have energy in order to keep up with what I'm doing. So, importance of fiber for your health, even if it was just for your health, should be up there.
Agreed.
Okay? It should be like the two things that you could actually do for your health, like that are not wicked heralded, are fiber and sleep. You know, like these next two things they are not sexy to talk about. Like, this is gonna maybe be the least listened to episode that we've ever done, and that's not saying a lot, right?
No.
But the idea, if you can do this for your health, but then it also just makes it so much easier to do the fat loss thing for long enough to see the results that you need to see. Because this is the challenge. We have to do hard things. I had this is where I'll leave it. I had this conversation with a coach that I met in Dallas back in March, and he and I were kind of going back and forth. I posted something the other day that said, "Embrace the suck." Because some things in life are just hard, and trying to game yourself into like, oh, I want to make this as easy as possible is sometimes doing us a disservice. Like, we need to embrace the fact that it's going to be hard, and it's going to be hard for a time, but you get to choose your hard. And he and I were kind of going back and forth on this, and we both kind of came to the point where we were just kind of agreeing about a lot of things, but we were saying, listen, you need to make this as easy as you can on yourself, but you also need to embrace the fact that this is challenging. And so get the basic things done, and that makes the rest of it so much easier. Setting yourself up for success makes the rest of it a lot easier. Any last thoughts?
I'm just impressed that we got an hour and 15 minutes out of fiber.
I'm willing to bet that at least 15 minutes of that was random tangents. At least 3 minutes of that was my gin shot story. So, but we did a good job. I'm proud of us that we were able to milk it for as long as we did. If you listened to this, I really appreciate you making it all the way to the end. Would love for you to check out, if you haven't already, the other 2 episodes from this series, and hang out for the remainder of these. If you have any questions about fiber, would love to answer them. You can send me a message on Instagram at Jeff Delzell Fitness. I'll link it in the show notes. And then also, I have an email list where I will likely be sending out a message about fiber at some juncture in the not terribly distant future, with some other things, maybe a fiber guide, something like that, which is going to fly off the shelves.
I'm so excited.
But if you haven't, you can just send me a message again, and I'll make sure you signed up for that. I don't spam you. I'll give you some stuff to check out. But appreciate you here, and then we'll circle back for part 4 next. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys.